this is Adrian Poe, and in this video we're going to talk about the biggest Terminator 2 plot hole ever that everyone missed. Now, Terminator 1 and 2 is notorious for having plot holes, and we're going to take a look at some that you probably heard of and saw on YouTube and on the internet. We're going to ignore Terminator 3, 4, and Genesis because I don't consider them part of the universe or part of the series, so I try to forget they even happened. So let's just focus on Terminator 1 and 2. So some of the known plot holes is the grandfather theory, which means that, so basically Reese, you know that he is the father of John Connor. So he was sent back from the future into the past to protect Sarah Connor because she was supposed to be the mother of John Connor. But because Reese got sent back, he got it on with Sarah Connor. Therefore, that's how he became the father of John Connor. So if he would have never went back, John would have never been born. So it creates this endless cycle that they call the grandfather, theory plot hole. Another one is in Terminator 1 when, the Kyle Reese got sent back and the, T-800 Schwarzenegger got sent back. But then Kyle Reese mentioned Skynet lost. We destroyed the time machine so no one could send anyone else back into the future or into the past, and no one could send, anyone back or whatever. So, but in Terminator 2, you got another T-800 and the T-1000 sent through a time machine, in the past. So how did that happen if the time machines got smashed in the first one? Another plot hole, probably very small, is when the T-800 was fighting the T-1000 at the end in the metalworks, and the T-800's arm got caught in the gear and got ripped off. So people could be like, oh, well, Skynet or some company could just find that arm and, create more Terminators like they did from the first movie where they found the smashed Terminator, even though in the first one it also had that, that chip from the brain. So, but still, they consider the arm, being ripped off in Terminator 2 like a plot hole. Another plot hole, Kyle Reese was mentioning that you can only send either a living, human or, an endoskeleton metal covered in human flesh. So you can't just send weapons or some type of metal through the time machine. It must be covered in flesh. Well, then how then the T-1000 gets sent through the time machine? Because he's not covered in flesh. His entire body is made of liquid metal, and the flesh, or what you see, is not really, human flesh. It's just a liquid metal, with the pigment designed to look like that. He can turn to any shape or color. So he's not covered in human flesh. So then how did he, travel through the time machine? Another plot hole is the T-1000. It's seen real fast if you really pay attention in that scene with the helicopter when he's chasing, on the highway and the freeway, all that. If you look when he's flying the helicopter, he has 3, 4 arms. So in this picture, he's one arm's holding a gun, one arm is flying the helicopter, another arm's doing something else. So the plot hole is basically, well, why can't he just make 18 arms and have, hold 18 guns and just shoot anything that moves and kill John Connor that way? But he didn't do that. So, and finally, the one plot hole that nobody caught, even though it's on screen for a couple minutes, a good minute, and it's not like you gotta focus really hard, and if you look away for a second or if you blink, you missed it. No, it's really prominent if it's a scene, and it has to do with the T-1000 and John Connor. So, have you figured it out yet? So before I tell you what the actual biggest plot hole is, I'm going to give you a hint. So basically, the T-1000 can shapeshift and change into any human or kind of object of similar size that it comes in contact with. So, for example, he, mimicked John Connor's stepmom when he was talking on the phone with John Connor, and then he killed the stepfather. Same thing happened with that cop at the mental institution. He, copied him, and then the guy turns around and he gets stabbed in the eye. Same thing with John Connor's mom at the end when the T-1000 like stabs her in the shoulder, but then the T-800 saves her. Later at the end, when John Connor's like looking for his mom, he turns around, sees his mom, and she's like pretending to be all hurt. But then another Sarah Connor shows up behind her and then shoots that one, and you see actually it's the T-1000 pretending to be the mom and, trying to trick John Connor. And even at the end, when the T-1000 gets pushed into that lava pit or whatever it is, he actually morphs into all the different people that he came in contact with. So basically, this, you can consider this a mini plot hole that is not the actual biggest plot hole that everyone missed. Is that why couldn't the T-1000 just change into like a regular person instead of staying a cop the whole time? For example, when John Connor was at that arcade and the T-1000 showed up, he's asking all the children, and then one of the kids at the arcade is like, yeah, he's over there, that's John Connor. And then the T-1000 freaks out and he's pushing the kids out of his way. And of course John Connor looks at the T-1000 not knowing what he is. He just thinks he's a regular cop. And of course John is going to be nervous when he sees a cop, because he just, robbed some ATM. So he's thinking, oh no, the cop found me because he found out I robbed an ATM. So of course he's going to run. So why couldn't the T-1000 just change himself into like some lady who's shopping at the mall, or some vendor that's selling food at the mall, and just casually and calmly walk into the arcade, ask the kids, hey, where's John Connor? Oh, he's over there. Thank you. He's my son, or he's my, nephew, or whatever. And then, the T-1000 casually walks over to John Connor. John's still playing the video games, not even noticing that some lady is coming up to him. And then, boom, the T-1000 makes some stabbing weapon out of his arm and kills John Connor, and the movie. So, do you see where I'm going? Have you figured out the biggest plot hole yet? Has the hint helped? So here is the biggest T2 plot hole that everyone missed. It's the scene where John Connor is getting chased by the T-1000 after, the T-800 and his mom escape from the mental hospital, and they're in the cop car running away, as you can see, and the T-1000 is chasing after them. He gets onto the car with his like metal, hooks, and then he breaks the window. He tries to kill John Connor, but then the T-800, uses the shotgun, shoots the T-1000 a couple times, finally breaking off a piece of that metal, and then he like falls off and then rolls away. Great, they're safe. And then what does John Connor do? He notices that little piece of metal from the hook, rattling on the car, and he reaches out, he touches the liquid metal, he pulls it out, holds it for like, a minute, 30 seconds, looks at it, and then throws it away. And then later, seconds later, the T-1000 finds that little metal piece, and then it forms into the liquid, and then it, forms back into his shoe, and he's back to normal. Great. End of scene. But what did John Connor just do? He touched the liquid metal. He came in contact with the T-1000. And what happens when someone comes in contact with the T-1000? That means that T-1000 from that moment on can change into John Connor. So that means he could have changed into John Connor, found the T-800, his mom and John, and then he could have walked up to them as John Connor, killed the mom, or waited until the real John was like turned around or by himself, and he would have the T-1000 would have walked up behind him as a replicant John Connor. Then the real John Connor would have turned around, just like with that cop at the mental hospital, and then the real John Connor would have been like, "What the heck is this?" Boom, and then some stabbing weapon would have got jabbed into his eye, into his head, dead. So that's the biggest plot hole that everyone missed, is that John Connor came in contact with the T-1000, and now the T-1000 can turn into John Connor and kill him at any moment that he wants. Now I threw this in here for the skeptics, for the people who think like, oh, the T-1000 can't turn into John Connor. Why? Because just like the T-800 said, he can't turn into like a pack of cigarettes or a bomb. He can only turn into an object that is of equal size. Well, let me prove that the T-1000 could have turned into John Connor after John Connor touched the liquid metal. I looked up the actress who played his mom, his stepmom, in the movie. Her real name is Jeanette Goldstein. So she's, the height about 5'2" or 5'3". I got conflicting reports, so I put both of them. It's basically the same thing. So then I looked up how tall John Connor was at the time of filming the movie, because he was like 9 or 10 at the time. So the real actor, like Edward Furlong, he's not very tall. He's like 5'7". So at the time of him filming, of being a little kid, I really couldn't find an actual height, but I did some detective work. So as you can see on the screen, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's 6'2". Linda Hamilton in the movie was 5'6", and you can clearly see that John Connor is much shorter than Linda Hamilton. So I'm approximating he's either 5'2" or even shorter. Who knows? He could be like 4'11", 4'12", who knows? But it's perfect size or close to the size of Jeanette Goldstein in the movie. So if the T-1000 could have morphed into the stepmom, then he could have absolutely have morphed into a shorter or the same size John Connor. Therefore, as you can see on the left, the T-1000 could have just, turned into John Connor, infiltrated, his mom or the T-800 or the real John Connor, and then killed John, and fulfill his mission, and there you go. So if you're still confused or still skeptic, I think I proved my point, and you missed the biggest Terminator 2 plot hole ever. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please like and share this video. Comment down below, because I'm sure some Terminator fans are going to have some questions or some issues of what I said, so I'll be glad to answer the questions. Please hit me up on Facebook and Twitter. Subscribe to my channel. Help me grow. And hit the notification bell, because a lot more videos coming out. Until next time, see ya.